You're good enough the way you are. Stop being so hard on yourself. Why are you always trying to get everything flawlessly perfect and never make any mistakes? You're good enough, right? Exactly as you are. Okay. But like, what does that even mean? Like when I took a step back and realized that that's my main problem and it's the core root of so many of my issues. It's like my number one wound. And you probably clicked on this because it's yours too. I really was like, "Okay, but, like, what does that mean, though? Like, what does it mean to be good enough?" And I gotta figure this out because everything links back to it. Absolutely every thought, every hang up, every emotion, every rumination that I have, no matter how disconnected from being good enough it seems on the surface, when I break it all the way down to its root, it always is about not feeling good enough every single time. It's the critic in my head. It's the way I torture myself. It's gotta stop. It's gotta stop. We gotta get to the root of this problem. And I think the number one way for us to figure it out is to figure out what that even means to be good enough. The number one thing that triggered me to start to figure this out is other than the obvious, like nobody likes to not feel good enough. That's not a good feeling. But it was playing such a big role in my participation in situations that I had gotten hurt with other people, like in my relationships, in my friendships that didn't work out. All of that came back to this core wound, my role in the relationship with the person that caused me harm was that I was so badly seeking validation that I was good enough. I was latching on to anything that allowed me to feel that way. So naturally, you can make sense of it. If there's a person that is harder to attain, or you want to fix them, or they maybe talked badly about you, like your friend talked bad about you behind your back, and so you want to convince them that that's not who you are, that you want to convince a person that's misunderstood you who the true you is so that they finally like you and you feel good enough, like that's even though they're hurting you, that's the role you're playing in putting yourself in those relationships. And I'm not doing that anymore. I'm sick of that. So we got to figure this shit out. And the reason I want to start figuring this out by really understanding what it actually means to be good enough is because it's so subconscious a lot of the time, the ways that we are operating. Like every time I've been in situations that my role in it is trying to prove that I'm good enough, I'm not consciously thinking that. I'm not consciously like, "Oh my god, I want them to see that I'm good enough and so I'm going to do it." Like that's not how that works. It just I think I'm fully operating from a place of authenticity. I think I'm fully operating from a place of confidence. I don't view it as me operating from this place of trying to figure out or solve or prove that I'm good enough at all. At all, especially the more self improvement that I implemented into my life. I thought that I was like totally good and dandy. I mean, literally right before my ex discarded me, I remember exactly where I was. I was getting onto the highway in Tampa called the Selman from 50th Street. I remember exactly where I was and I literally had the thought of like, well, what else is there to learn? I've already like I feel like I've gotten to the end of self-improvement. Like I feel like I'm good to go, which is hilarious. As we know, every time we think something like that, the entire world says, "Ha ha ha, no." And little did I know that that entire relationship, I was subconsciously operating from this place, and I would not have been made aware of it had this not happened. And now I can be a completely different person. I will show up in my relationships completely differently. I can view myself completely differently, and that has been given to me from this experience, and I'm so motherfucking grateful. But we're going to do as much with it, as much with that opportunity as we absolutely can. And the goal, obviously, is that something horrible doesn't have to happen in order for you to dig that out of your subconscious, for you to become consciously aware that this is what is happening. So let's talk about it. Make sure to rate and review the show. It really does help make a difference getting more Welsh people connected with us so that we are all aware that we can be imperfect and we can still feel like our ideal selves. So do that for other people. If it's helped you, do it for somebody else. It really makes a difference. And do something for yourself if you haven't already. Make sure to subscribe to Welsh so you never miss an episode. Okay, in order to fully unpack something, we got to wind it all the way back and start at the absolute beginning. So, where does this idea of good enough come from? The big one that we can all think of right off the bat is the cultural pressure. Productivity, that if you do more, you'll achieve more. You have to do more in order to be successful. You have to do more in order to become this thing. You have to do these practices and you'll become this. You're adding more onto your plate. The other one would be social media highlights, obviously. We're seeing everybody's perfect lifestyle play out on social media and just are naturally, unconsciously, automatically comparing ourselves to other people. And that same thing kind of follows suit with self improvement media. That even though we're watching things that are supposed to make us feel good, like about how to become more confident or how to be a good parent or how to keep your house clean. You're watching the video, and while you're intaking all of the information, you're simultaneously feeling worse and worse about yourself. You're simultaneously using it as something to compare yourself to and make you feel like shit about the way your life looks like right now. Instead of being like, oh, okay, I'll take these tips and I'll implement them. Nothing wrong with how I live now, but it would be nice to, this was a good idea. I'll try to add this in. No, you're simultaneously going, wow, that's a good idea. Wow, I'm such a fucking mess. My life sucks. I do this horribly. My house looks like shit. My style looks like shit. I'm ugly. Like whatever it is, our inner critic is fucking yelling at us in our head. And a lot of the time, this is what I'm realizing lately, is the inner critic isn't as like blatant as I thought it was. Like I thought that the inner critic was just so like obvious because sometimes it can be so obvious in our head, but it's also just like the subtle knowing, and it's not a knowing, it's your inner critic, but like it's the subtle, it's like this inner knowing that there is, like that it's just the way it is. And like for me, I convince myself that it's my logic, that I think that it's just like that's just how it is. You know what I mean? And it's not my voice. It's just been living inside of my head for so long that I'm mistaking it as my voice. But every time I start to feel worried about what other people might think, or I start to think, I got to do this thing in order to. That's all the critic, but you can convince yourself that that's you, and you convince yourself that it's you trying to do right by yourself and it's you trying to self improve. That's not you, that's your inner critic. We'll talk more about that and how to decipher those two later. And the other big thing is like marketing in media, like we see it on TV, we see it in social media, we see it on billboards, we see it in magazines, we see it in ads. Like everything is always how you could be bigger and better and do more. And what you're doing right now isn't good enough. And you just need to add this product and then it will be. Sydney Sweeney who has good jeans, like buy the jeans and you'll have a good butt, whatever. Like it's always that like what you're doing now isn't good enough. The other thing that really contributes to this, I can already tell this is going to be a long episode. Oh my God. The other thing that really contributes to this is childhood and family conditioning. And there are so many layers to this, like, especially if we want to bring like how our parents are into this and what dynamics we learn and what we were exposed to and all that stuff. But I simply just mean like when you were a kid and you were trying so hard to fit in, when you were a kid and you had to get good grades in order to have your parents' approval. I'm talking about when you were rejected by friends or by boys, or the cute guy in school wanted to date your friend and didn't want to date you, and what was wrong with you? It's like this like constant cycle of rejection that happens when you're a kid. You're constantly exposed to it being in school. It's about the roles that we have to fit in, whether that's in your house or it's in your friend group or it's in your sports team. You have to, fit and identify with this certain role. And in order to get in there, you have to be good enough. And then you have your own story, everything in your life up until right now, today, that's made you feel like you're not good enough. And you might not even remember absolutely every single thing. I remembered the other day when I was in third grade and I did this dance routine. It was like a talent show moment, third grade, and I had to stand in front of the class and play a song over the speaker, and I like did a dance to it, and I remember people laughing at me. And I was writing about something the other day, and I mean I fucking forgot about that, and that like resurrected from my mind. And it's crazy that like I remember, that's I was 8 and I remember that. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, but I remember that like from when I was 8 years old because it made me feel like I wasn't good enough. It's probably one of my first wounds that made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And that's in there somewhere. So think about all of the subconscious things that never actually surface back into our memory that have made us feel this way and have built this up over time in our relationships, in our friendships, in our job, in our fitness, in our body, in our face, like in our like everything. Like there's just like so many areas that we integrate enoughness into, and when we don't reach the level that we want to reach, we feel so disappointed. And the crazy thing is we don't reach it because like I said, that bar is always moving and we don't even realize that we're constantly moving that bar. So nothing we do ever reaches it. It's never good enough. So not only is all of this external stuff going on that's making us feel not good enough, but internally we're also creating all of these standards that we're not meeting, and so then we're making ourselves feel like we're not good enough in that way too. That's a lot. And it's a lot to compound over X amount of years that you've been alive. It's like good enough only seems to exist on the other side of achievement or on the other side of external validation. And it's external validation that you've convinced yourself is internal validation. And maybe some of it is internal validation, but the only reason that it's that way for you is because external sources made you believe that you had to have that in order to be good enough, in order to have value. So it's still not even internal. It's still coming from the outside sources. So, next on my agenda of getting to the bottom of what good enough even really means, I think about psychology. Like, I think about what do the psychologists say being good enough actually is. And the first thing that I came across is the difference between self worth and self esteem. Now, it's so funny to me because I hear those two terms and I have never thought to look those things up. I just know what they mean. Like I never actually looked into the difference of them. And now that I know, like right now in this moment, now that I know the difference, it seems so fucking stupid that I didn't realize what the difference was. But when I was researching for this episode and I figured this out, when I saw this presented, self-worth versus self-esteem, I didn't know the difference between the two. I had to look into it further and say, like, what is the difference between self-worth and self-esteem? Because they are so intertwined. So let me tell you what the difference is between these two. Self worth, it seems so obvious now. It's so funny. Self worth is actually, I have the definitions. Hold on. Okay, so according to Merriam Webster, self worth is defined as one's own value as a human being, and self esteem is defined as a confidence and satisfaction in oneself. So, two totally separate things. Like your self esteem is about your respect for yourself. Like it's about how you view yourself. If you can feel proud of yourself, it's about how you show up in the world. And self worth is just your inherent value as a human being. Those two things aren't connected at all, but we connect the two so much. They're so intertwined because self esteem, like we were talking about earlier, it's always about this achievement. Self esteem is what we're always trying to achieve in order to feel self worth. But the two are not correlated. And let me tell you why. Because self esteem and the things that go into self esteem are always going to change. It's about what we do. It's about how we feel about ourselves. It's about how other people feel about and perceive us. And that is always going to change. It can change on a daily basis. I mean, let's look at it, right? Like just for hypothetical joking, whatever. This isn't serious, but like an Indiana 8, right, could be a Chicago 3. And a Chicago 8 could go to Indiana and totally not fit in no matter what she does to try. But do either of those people lose their worth when they go to the opposite place? No. You could be the best trumpet player in your town and then move to another town and somebody else is better than you. Does that make you lose your worth? No. But you let it because it's like your self-esteem is determined by how good you are or what you've achieved or what people think of you or how you're perceived. It's crazy. So then we tie that into our worth. Okay, so like when I use either of those examples, it sounds so silly when I say it out loud because it seems like I've said 1,000 times, so obvious. But like when I say those examples out loud, it makes me think, okay, but like the reason I go to the next town and when somebody else is better than me, I feel bad about myself now is because like I think that, like I think I want to be the best. I think I want to up my game so that I can be the best trumpet player in the state, not just between two towns. So then it's like those are your thoughts and your emotions, and your self-esteem is based off of that too. But those are also always changing, you know? It depends on the situation you're in. It depends on the things that are going on in your life. It depends on how sick or healthy you feel that day. It depends on how mentally well or not well you are that day. Your thoughts and your emotions are relative. So you still can't base your self worth off of that. You know, your self esteem might fluctuate day to day, but your self worth doesn't change. Michael Singer teaches that you are not your thoughts and your emotions. You are the consciousness and the awareness inside of you. Cause he always is like, are you in there? Like, are you in there? And it's like, yeah, I'm in here. Hi. And he talks about that if you were to like look at your hand, right? Like, look at your hand right now. Like, okay, hi, hand. If you were to chop that hand off and your hand is gone now, are you still there? Yes. So, like, your body is not who you are, you know, like you're still in there somewhere. Like, it's not determined by if you all of your limbs were gone, like you would still be in there. You might be like, what the fuck is the point of life? But you're still in there. Your worth doesn't change because you're still there. If you were, like I said, completely had no limbs, if you were completely paralyzed, if you couldn't even speak and you were just hooked up to tubes, but you're still in there, you still have worth. Worth is a deep understanding that you are more than what you say, what you do, how you act, how you behave, how you show up. You are more than all of those things. That all contributes to your self esteem and how much you can respect yourself and how you feel about yourself in the ways that you act and show up and behave. But that changes. Your worth doesn't change. And of course, you want to improve upon those things and be better at those things so that you can improve your self esteem because it feels good to have a good self esteem. But that's a separate issue than your self worth. Like, absolutely do the things that make you feel good about who you are and proud to be who you are and you living in alignment with yourself and knowing that you feel good about who you are on a day-to-day basis. That's self-esteem. Your self-worth doesn't change. Everybody's got self-worth. Everybody has worth. It makes sense why they get confused because, you know, if you don't feel good about yourself, you start to think that you don't have worth, but they're separate issues. I've said it 1,000 times, but it's true. Like, you have to just radically believe that you have worth. The esteem, you can, you know, do things to make yourself build your self esteem, but you just have to radically believe that you are worthy. You cannot lose that because when we start to lose that is when we start to get into trouble. That's when we start to let other people treat us badly. That's when we start to accept less than we deserve. It's when we settle. That's when things aren't good. That's when things get weird. Okay. You have to just radically believe that you have self worth. There's nothing that you can do to prove it because you just have it. You just have it. Let's move on for the love of God. The other thing that psychology talks about a lot when we're talking about what it really means to be good enough is perfectionism. And a lot of the time, if this is your core wound, you probably are a perfectionist. So, a perfectionist is somebody that is really detail oriented. They have rigid structures and rules. Hi, that's totally me. Like, I make my own rules up and then beat myself up for not following those rigid structures and rules. Nothing you achieve ever feels good enough. The bar always moves. There's always something that you could have done better. You could have done 9 out of the 10 things right, but because you didn't get that one right, that means that it's all gone to shit. Your happiness is fully tied to the quality of your purpose and your success, and everything has to be fucking flawless because you have this deep rooted fear of rejection or disappointing people or disappointing yourself. So, according to research, perfectionism is a personality disposition that is characterized as setting excessively high objectives and striving for flawlessness. It is overly critical evaluations of one's character. There are two types of perfectionists. There's outwardly perfectionists. So, this is when you have to control everybody and everything in your life in order for it to fit your standards. And then there's inward perfectionists that you have to do that same thing to yourself, that you're being like hyper hard on yourself and you never meet your own standards. So, no shit, if your brain works like this, you're never good enough. You never feel good enough because it's basically just a vicious cycle. And I have to say it before we move on is don't be a perfectionist about getting rid of perfectionism, okay? Like it's probably always going to live within you a little bit. Like you're always going to have those feelings come up, those thoughts, the way of going about things are probably always going to be there. And there's good things about perfectionism, you know? Like I think my perfectionism has gotten me as far in my life as it has. And like I feel really good about, the level of self-improvement that I do, for example, because like that's something that I'm a perfectionist about. And so like that has gotten me really far in my self-improvement journey. I would not trade that for anything, but it's being able to be aware of the perfectionism and being able to heal it and help it when it starts to get to a toxic level. And then I stumbled upon Donald Winnicott. He was Britain's first medically trained child psychoanalyst. And he was very wellish, okay? He talked about how being a good enough parent was he didn't celebrate this like extraordinary, you have to do everything right, everything perfect kind of parenting style that I think we hear about a lot. So he had this like six step, I think, routine, I'll call it, to be a good parent. But what I thought was interesting about him was obvious, like I like the wellishness of it. But he talked about not liking good children, that good children scared him because they were the product of parents that couldn't handle bad behavior and they demanded compliance too early and too strictly. So he talked about how it created a sense of false self. And that means that they're outwardly good, outwardly compliant, but they suppress their true instincts. It's just like society, like we're supposed to be, you're trained to be a good kid. And if you're not a good kid, you're a bad kid and you're naughty and you need fixing and you need to go to the special room, sit in the hall, do whatever, like, but you're just a kid that's figuring out how to be a kid. And who knows what's going on at home because, that's another piece of what Winnicott talks about is that if a parent acts in a weird, not healthy way, that the child tries to overcompensate for what the parent is screwing up. But like, and I'm talking about like in an unhealthy way, like not just like little mistakes, like being like emotionally incestual with your children or whatever. But like I just think, or like doing drugs in the garage, whatever it is that your parents do. I just think it's crazy because like whether it's your parents, your teachers, whoever, like I was talking about at the beginning, like in the childhood stuff, is it's like you're having these labels put on you so intensely, or just that they weren't tolerant of your learning to deal with your emotions. And when those emotions were negative, they were suppressed, like because you weren't supposed to be bad, you were supposed to be good. So instead of being taught to cope with our emotions, we were taught to suppress them and change them into good ones, and that we're not good enough unless we are good. When I think about what it would feel like to just wake up tomorrow and believe and know and feel like I am good enough, like it instantly makes me feel more relaxed. I think of watching Downton Abbey on my couch and not feeling guilty about it. I think about going to the gym as much or as little as I want and not being worried how that equates to my attractiveness. I think about allowing myself to take my career a little bit at a time, and I don't have to figure it all out today. I feel like I could move more confidently. I feel like I could just rely on my opinion, not the imaginary assumed opinions of everybody else. I think I think I would know that I won't always feel enough, and that doesn't mean that I'm not enough, even though I don't live in this constant place of feeling good enough. Maybe we need to flip the question. Like, maybe it's not, am I good enough yet? And it's, am I living in alignment with my core values today? Am I living in alignment with what matters most to me today? Like, maybe we need to remove good enough out of our vocabulary entirely? Maybe? I don't know. I mean, obviously, that's probably pretty impossible because, like, culturally, socially, it's like so ingrained. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. Like, put it in the comments or something. Like, tell me. It's just a thought that popped into my head. I don't know if that's the answer or not. Maybe when we're spiraling, we can start saying like good enough for who? And instantly when I ask that question, and if I know it's coming from a place of a spiral, I can probably think of a person who I think I'm not good enough for, but like for them, what makes them so special that you have to be good enough for them? Like, here's you operating on this higher frequency, asking the questions to grow. How can I be better? How can I be enough? And like, even if it's not healthy, like, even if you picking yourself apart and trying to be enough isn't like coming from a healthy place, your intention is still operating on this higher frequency because you want growth, you want to be better, you want to be enough. And it's definitely higher than a person that doesn't give a fuck about how they impact other people, doesn't care about how they make other people feel, is willing to make you feel like you need to do more in order to be good enough for their standards. But those are the people that are making us feel like we're not enough. Why would we want approval of someone operating on a lower frequency? That doesn't even make sense. So we have to so we have to ask ourselves that question, you know? We have to say, "Okay, I'm feeling not good enough. Who am I not feeling good enough for?" And even if we can come up with a person that we can say, "Okay, I'm not feeling good enough for them," like, but what a like who are they? Like, would you go to that person for advice? You know, maybe at a certain point you would go to that person for advice because they're so deeply ingrained into your life. But like, I think at your deepest core, you know, if there's somebody that's making you feel like you're not good enough, that they're operating on a lower frequency than you. Okay, maybe it's not a person, but then who? Like the world? And I was originally going to say zoom out, babe. Like it's not that serious. You're just on a big floating rock. No one's looking at you that intensely. But when we feel like we're not good enough for the world, what we're really saying is like, what's the point of me? Like, what is my purpose? Do I even have a reason to be here? That's too big and too existential and too soul crushing to put that much of your energy into because even just saying it out loud, you know, you can see where that could lead. You know, it's not a good place. It's not a good thing. It's not good. So, and I'm guilty of this, okay? I literally like have had that thought this week. Like, what's my purpose? Like, why I could like why even do anything? Why even try? Like, we're all just like here, you know? Like, and if I never feel good enough for anything, like what's the point? You know, like it didn't get too dark, but like for like a second I did think like what's the fucking point? But you have to bring it back to yourself. Just being good enough for yourself. Okay. But what if that's the problem? That you never feel good enough for yourself. The good news is that's the only thing that we can control, okay? The only thing that is actually in our control is if we feel good enough for ourselves. For all of the external things that we have talked about, we can't control that. We can't control if we're good enough for those people. But for ourselves, that we can do something about. So, how do we do that? The first thing to really know is that being good enough is not a finish line, it's a baseline. And it's a baseline that you get to choose and you get to change and, you know, whatever. So, some of the things that we tell ourselves now in order to make ourselves finally good enough for ourselves is like, once I go to the gym and get my dream body, my ex will regret it. If I say all the right things, then my friends will like me and they'll think I'm cool. If I do everything a certain way, then I will gain my parents' approval. if I perm my hair because he says he likes girls with curly hair, then maybe he'll stop cheating on me. That one was a little specific. That one was a little personal. I'm guilty. Oops, sorry. This is what we need to start telling ourselves. These are my core values, and this is how I lived in alignment with them today. This is my long term goal, and this is the small action that I took today to move just a little bit closer to that goal. When I am feeling anxious about how I showed up in that situation, would I have shown up differently, or did I behave in alignment with myself? I did the best I could with the information that I had at that given point in time. And now I have more information that I could show up and behave differently in the future. But at that point, I behaved with the knowledge that I had at that point. And that's the best I could have done. If I was the only person in existence, would I still do this thing? Like, would I still show up and do this? Do I have evidence that I am progressing? Even if it's a little bit, am I progressing? Did I do my best today? And your best will change every single day. It can change moment to moment throughout your day, but did I do my best in each moment? Our system has brought us up to believe that there is always something that we could have done better, but realistic self improvement is always having our own back. So, you know what that means? It means that you are no longer constantly auditioning for worth, because if you are constantly auditioning for your worth, you're self abandoning. If you're constantly auditioning for worth, it's you not having your own back because it's you telling you that you're not good enough now. Like, having your own back is accepting and knowing that you are good enough now. That's having your own back. Like, that's when you're actually going to self improve. After I did all of my research and my thought work on this topic, I sat down with my journal and I wrote at the top of it, what does it mean to be good enough? So I want to read you guys what I wrote. I said, and it might be a little vulnerable, okay? But I'm going to read it to you anyways, because this is what it means to me. And maybe this is something that you could sit down and figure out what that actually means to you, so you can start living more in alignment with feeling good enough right now as you are. So I said, to me, good enough means feeling light. It means feeling safe inside of your own body. It means feeling good about who you are, no matter how many mistakes you've made. It means no matter what outside sources say, do, think, feel, it doesn't shake how you view yourself. Sure, you want to improve and grow and do better, but it doesn't come from a place of lack or insecurity or fear. It's genuine, it's curious, it's kind, it's patient, it's quiet. It's not loud or angry or sad or mean or makes you feel like you have to run away, avoid, or suppress it. Being good enough is regardless of what's happening in your life, no matter the contents of your life. You know you deserve your own grace. You deserve your own friendship. It would mean being able to just enjoy life, see the beauty in everything, do what matters most to you, and what matters most is ever evolving. Allowing yourself to lean into that. It means you like yourself so much that other people not liking you, sure, can hurt your feelings, but it doesn't shake your sense of self. It doesn't shake your worth. It doesn't make you feel like you have to fix something or change something. You can just exist as you and feel good and safe and peaceful and protected like that. That's so nice, isn't it? I love it. It makes me so happy. So maybe being good enough is just about being human, and showing up imperfectly and letting that be okay. Because honestly, that's the secret of wellish, is that if you focus on being wellish, you focus on being imperfect, suddenly, wildly, you actually start to feel well. You're not striving for perfection and flawlessness and enoughness so much and so hard that you never reach the bar. But when you strive for good enough, when you strive for wellish, suddenly you feel good and you feel well. Don't go too far. We've got our question of the week. Never neglect, okay? This week's question is, I've been struggling with living alone for a year now, turned 21 all by myself and felt so empty, but truly nothing is wrong. This episode has helped me a lot. Thank you. I'm wondering what you do to spend time alone and enjoy it. So, I First of all, I love you, and I understand the spending your birthday alone. I didn't spend mine 100% alone. I did go to dinner with my friends that night, so I want to like commend you for doing that because it takes a really strong person to, you know, to do that. And I think it's so easy to say like don't put pressure, so much pressure on one day, but like we do it. It's natural, it's your birthday and we grew up being made to feel like our birthday was like so important and then you get into adulthood and then it's nothing. Especially your 21st birthday, like you expected probably so much more for your 21st birthday and ended up spending it alone. So shout out to you for doing that because that's you're pretty strong. You're a strong ass bitch for getting through that alone, and I'm very impressed by you. I would say what I do to spend time alone. What do I do? So I do watch a lot of TV now. I was never really a big TV person, but I just like the noise in the house and I listen to music a little bit, but just from what I'm going through personally, music is a little bit harder for me. It inflicts a little bit more emotion for me, where the TV is more mindless, especially like I like reality TV, I like dramas, that kind of thing. So like it's easy to just have that on in the background or to enjoy that and that fills my void a little bit. So but other than that, which I feel like is a pretty easy answer, I read. I love reading. I'll listen to self-improvement books, but I will read fantasy and romance novels, that kind of stuff. I ride my bike. I will ride my bike to the library. I've gone to artisan fairs and farmers markets and that kind of stuff. I go and read my book in the park or just go on a walk, go walk around the park. I will try different shops in my neighborhood. I know this isn't necessarily alone, but I try to make plans with friends and my family. I do if I've got some money to burn, I really, really, really recommend solo eating. Like I think going out to lunch or dinner or breakfast, whatever, but going out to eat by yourself is really empowering. I think it makes you feel like really proud of yourself and really capable and really like, I don't know, like it just makes me feel really good about myself when I do those things. I started to learn how to knit, so I've been doing that, especially like while I'm watching TV. It feels good to be knitting while I'm doing something, so like I'm not just rotting there. So I say that to say like, learning something new. I bought a ukulele, so I was trying to learn that. It did not get far at all, but like just again speaking to like trying to learn something new and teach myself something, I think is really really good. I like to sign up for classes. Like I signed up for archery. I took some horseback riding classes. What else did I do? I've taken tons of yoga classes. I joined a couple book clubs, so that was cool. So just like joining things, getting involved, showing up for myself, like really taking inventory of how I like to spend my time and jumping on that opportunity. And again, like as you heard in last week's episode, like you still get bored because you're not filling the void, the space with another person like you are when you live with other people and you are spending a lot of your time with another person. When you're in a period of your life that you're spending a lot of time alone, it can feel a little bit more boring no matter how much, you pack into your day. Cause like I say all of those things that I've done and I definitely still feel bored. And like it's only now that I list all those things out loud that I think like, I have done a lot, and I do a lot to make myself feel good. But on the day to day, I don't realize that. I don't feel like that. So, absolutely like incorporating things that you like into your life. The other thing I do is the date method. You could look that up. It's one of my previous episodes. It's huge dinner, adventure, travel events. If I try to incorporate at least one of those from each area throughout my month, I feel like I've had a pretty full month. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think that if you include things in your life, but also maybe I'm learning right in this moment, take inventory of the things that you do. You might feel a little bit more proud of yourself. But obviously, if you're in a space that you feel like, you want more with your life and you want to feel more satisfied, hopefully this episode helped. But maybe it's, working on the internal stuff and doing stuff externally that satiates you internally. Hopefully that helps. From one alone girly to another. If you want to submit your question or story, the easiest way to do that is via DM. You can do that on Instagram or on TikTok at Wellish Podcast. You can also find, follow, message me on my personal at sarah.rittendale on Instagram. Make sure to follow me in both places. I'm always posting Wellish content that is up for your enjoyment so that we don't have to just be limited to Mondays. With that said, though, I have something super exciting coming up, a couple super exciting things coming up that I'm very looking forward to sharing with you guys. Just a few changes that are going to be coming up here in the next couple weeks. So you'll find out what those are soon. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. I hope you guys are enjoying your day off. I hope you are having a great Labor Day weekend. And we're here in September. Welcome to fall. I'm so excited. I'm wearing my jacket because I felt like it was fall. So, yeah, we're going to have a good rest of this year. And I'm very excited to spend it together. This month, September, is Wellish's 3-year anniversary. BT dubs. So that's why we got, maybe I'll make the exciting things come up for the anniversary. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay. So stay tuned for the third week of September. That's when the stuff is going to be released. Okay. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.